The night was silent, except for the soft whisper of the wind moving across the wide desert. The stars hung like silver dust over the dark horizon, cold and endless. Ethan Cole sat in his small security post near the old airfield, drinking from a cup of cheap coffee. He worked the night shift alone, bored, and waiting for morning to come. It was always the same. Long, quiet nights with nothing to see except sand, wind, and empty sky, but that night was different. A bright streak of light cut across the sky. Fast and burning, Ethan stood up, his cup falling to the floor. He watched as the light became brighter, louder, and then vanished behind the hills with a low rumble. The ground shook slightly, like something heavy had hit the earth. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside, his heart beating fast. Maybe a meteor, he thought, but something about that light felt strange. Too controlled, too alive. He climbed into his old truck and drove toward the glow on the horizon. The desert stretched out in every direction, quiet and empty. Then he saw it, smoke rising. Sand burned into glass, and in the center a glowing metal capsule half buried in the ground. It was not a rock, not anything from this world. Ethan's breath caught as he walked closer. The air around the capsule warm and humming. The light faded slowly, revealing smooth silver skin and strange symbols carved on its surface. Then, with a soft hiss, the capsule opened. A wave of cool mist spilled out, shining under the moonlight. Ethan stepped back, raising his flashlight. Inside, he saw movement, a figure trying to stand for a moment. He thought it was a person, but the shape was different, more elegant, more fragile. Then she stepped out, her skin glowing faint blue, her eyes wide and filled with light. Her hair fell like soft silver threads around her face. She looked at Ethan, confused, breathing quickly. Her lips moved, and a trembling voice came out. "Be gentle, human." "I've never done this before," she whispered. Ethan froze. She spoke English, but every word sounded strange, like she was learning it in real time. He could see she was shaking, her body weak, her feet bare against the cold sand. He took a step forward carefully, his voice low. "It's okay, I won't hurt you," he said. She looked at him with eyes that seemed to see through everything. For a second, they just stood there, human and alien, both afraid, both curious. Suddenly, a sharp sound came from above. Ethan looked up. 3 small black drones were flying fast, lights blinking red, scanning the crash site. The alien woman's expression changed to fear. "They found me," she whispered. Before Ethan could ask who, she reached out and grabbed his arm, her touch cold but gentle. "We must go," she said. Pulling him toward the truck, he hesitated, his mind spinning. But something in her voice told him to trust her. They jumped inside as the drones hovered lower. Beams of light cutting through the dust, Ethan hit the gas. The tires spinning over sand, the drones followed, firing thin blue beams that sliced through the air behind them. The truck bounced and swerved as he drove through the rocky ground. The woman closed her eyes, pressed her hands together, and the dashboard lights flickered. The engine suddenly grew stronger, faster. "What did you do?" Ethan shouted. "I helped," she said softly. "Your machine was slow." They drove until the lights of the drones disappeared, until the desert became quiet again. Ethan stopped near an old storage hangar, hidden behind sand dunes. He turned to her, still breathing hard. "Who are you?" he asked. She looked out the window at the stars, her voice calm now. "My name is Lyra," she said. "I am not supposed to be here." Ethan frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You crashed from the sky, that's not normal." Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. "I was sent to your world," she said slowly. "To learn, to understand humans." Ethan stared at her, unsure if he was dreaming. "You mean you're some kind of alien spy?" Lyra blinked, trying to understand the word. "Spy," she repeated quietly. "Yes, maybe that is what you call it." She leaned back, closing her eyes, her energy fading. Ethan gave her his jacket, not knowing what else to do. He looked out into the night. The silence heavy with questions. Somewhere in the sky, faint blue lights moved again, searching. He didn't know what was coming next, but one thing was clear. This was only the beginning. Morning sunlight crept across the desert, turning the golden sand into waves of fire. Inside the old hangar, Ethan sat beside the strange woman, still trying to understand who or what she really was. Lyra lay on the floor wrapped in his jacket, her breathing slow and calm, her skin glowing faintly blue for a moment. She looked peaceful, almost human, but the broken pieces of her capsule outside reminded him that she wasn't from this world. When she finally opened her eyes, they shone brighter than before. Her voice was soft, clear and calm. "Thank you, human," she said. "You saved my life." Ethan shook his head, still dazed. "I don't even know what's happening," he said. "Who are you and why are you here?" Lyra sat up slowly, brushing dust from her arms. "My name is Lyra," she said again. "I am an observer from the planet Valara." Ethan blinked. "Observer? You mean like a scientist?" Lyra tilted her head, trying to find the right words. "More than that," she said. "My mission is to understand your species. Your emotions, your decisions, your violence, and your kindness." Ethan laughed nervously. "Well, you sure picked the wrong place for that," he said. "Humans aren't always kind." Lyra's expression changed slightly, something between curiosity and sadness. "On Valara, emotions are considered weakness," she said. "We are taught to remove them completely." Her voice trembled as she looked at her hands. "But the council began to fear your kind because humans act without logic. They act with feeling." She paused, her voice growing lower. "They wanted me to study that, to find out what makes you different." Ethan listened quietly. "So they sent you here just to spy on us?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "But my arrival was not planned this way. My ship malfunctioned and now my signal has been detected." Ethan frowned. "By who?" Lyra looked up, her face pale. "By my people," she whispered. "They will come for me. And for anyone who helped me." A cold silence filled the hangar. Ethan walked to the door and looked outside. Scanning the sky, the sun was bright but far away. A faint silver light shimmered through the clouds. He turned back to her. "Then we hide," he said firmly. Lyra looked surprised. "You would help me?" Ethan shrugged. "You fell from the sky, you're hurt. And someone's chasing you. It doesn't matter where you're from." "That's wrong." Lyra smiled faintly, something soft and unfamiliar in her expression. "That is why the council fears your race," she said. "Because you help without reason." Ethan began collecting tools. Wires and an old radio from a dusty shelf. Lyra watched him curiously. "What are you doing?" "Trying to block your signal," Ethan said. "If we can jam it, maybe they won't find you." Lyra moved closer, her hands glowing as she touched the wires. Blue light ran through the circuits, fixing broken pieces instantly. Ethan stared in shock. "How did you do that?" Lyra smiled slightly. "Energy control, simple science," she said. "Your machines are fragile but beautiful." Together, they built a small barrier device using her alien crystal and his old radio. When it powered on, the air shimmered faintly around them. "It will not last long," she warned, "but it will give us time." They sat together in silence for a while. Ethan finally spoke. "So, what do you think about humans so far?" Lyra thought for a moment. "You are louder than I expected," she said with a small smile. "But your emotions are strong. They fill the air, I can almost feel them." Ethan laughed. "Well, that's what makes us human," he said. "We feel too much." Lyra looked down, her voice quiet. "Maybe that is what makes you powerful," she whispered. Then her smile faded. "If they find me, they will not let me return home. They will destroy this place to keep their secret." Ethan's face hardened. "Then they'll have to go through me first," he said. Lyra looked at him, her eyes softening. "You do not even know me, yet you protect me," she said. "Your kind confuses me." That night, Lyra sat near the door. Watching the stars, she spoke softly, almost to herself. "On my world, I was told humans were dangerous," she said. "But maybe danger and kindness can live together." Ethan smiled, lying on an old chair. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "We're a mess, but we try our best." Lyra looked at him for a long time, the light in her eyes flickering gently. She didn't say anything, but deep inside, something new was growing, a small, strange feeling that she couldn't explain. It was not fear, not confusion, but something softer, something her people never named. She didn't know it yet. But that feeling would change everything. Far above the earth, in the cold, dark sky, a silver ship drifted silently inside. Alien voices whispered through glowing screens. "We found her signal," one said. "Prepare the hunter drone." The ship turned toward Earth, its engines glowing like blue fire. The mission had begun. Days passed quietly in the desert. The sun rose over the endless sand, painting the world in golden heat inside the hangar. Ethan and Lyra began to live in an uneasy peace. She no longer looked frightened, though her eyes still carried the sadness of someone far from home. Each day she watched Ethan closely, studying his habits, his movements, and the strange rhythm of his human life. Ethan tried to act normal, though he knew nothing about what normal meant when an alien lived in his workshop. He showed her how to eat canned food, how to use the radio, how to wear sunglasses when she went outside. Lyra found everything fascinating. She touched objects like a child seeing them for the first time. When she tasted chocolate, her expression changed from confusion to wonder. "It is sweet," she said softly, "but it makes my heart beat faster." Ethan laughed. "Yeah, that's sugar," he said. "Welcome to addiction." Lyra smiled for the first time. Her smile was different, soft, pure, and uncertain, like she was learning how to be happy. She followed Ethan as he repaired old generators and checked security fences. When he hurt his hand on a piece of metal, blood ran down his finger. Lyra gasped and grabbed his hand, her touch glowing blue. Within seconds, the wound closed, leaving smooth skin behind. Ethan stared at his hand in shock. "How did you do that?" Lyra looked down. "Healing is simple for us," she said quietly, "but it feels different when it is for someone else." Ethan could hear the emotion in her voice. "You mean you actually felt something?" he asked. Lyra hesitated. "I do not know what to call it," she said. "It feels heavy and warm at the same time." Ethan smiled. "That's called caring," he said. "It means you're becoming a little human." Lyra tilted her head. "I was told emotions make us weak," she said. "But this does not feel like weakness." Ethan looked at her seriously. "It's not weakness," he said. "It's what makes us alive." That night, the wind howled outside. They sat together near a small heater, the only light flickering in the room. Lyra asked questions, endless questions. "Why do humans laugh even when they are sad?" she asked. "Because sometimes laughing hurts less than crying," Ethan said. "Why do you fight wars if you know they destroy?" Ethan looked into the fire. "Because sometimes we fight for things that matter," he answered. Lyra nodded slowly. "You are creatures of feeling," she whispered, "and yet you survive. That is beautiful." As she spoke, Ethan noticed her hand trembling slightly. He touched her arm. "Are you okay?" he asked. Her eyes shimmered with faint light. "I think my systems are changing," she said softly. "Being near you is affecting me." Ethan frowned. "Like a sickness?" "No," she said, "like evolution." She smiled faintly. "My people call it the emotional virus. It is feared." "Because it changes us," Ethan laughed lightly. "Well, if you're catching feelings, you're doomed," he joked. Lyra smiled again, but deep inside she knew it was serious. Late that night, when Ethan fell asleep, Lyra stood outside under the stars. She looked at the vast sky. Whispering something in her own language, her voice was soft and filled with emotion. A small glowing crystal hovered from her hand. It was a transmitter, her only link to her world. She activated it briefly, sending a short signal. "Lyra 17 active. Data unstable. Subject contact developing emotional reaction." A cold mechanical voice replied. "Terminate contact immediately. Contamination detected." Lyra's eyes filled with tears she did not understand. She shut off the device and held it tightly. For the first time in her existence, she disobeyed an order. The next morning, Ethan found her sitting quietly near the broken capsule. He handed her a cup of coffee. "Bad dreams?" he asked. She looked at the rising sun. "I dreamed of my home," she said, "but it felt empty." Ethan sat beside her. "You miss it?" "Yes," she said, "but something here feels different. More alive." He smiled. "That's Earth for you," he said. Loud, messy, but real. Suddenly a small spark flickered across the sky. Too fast for a star. Too smooth for a plane. Lyra's expression turned cold. "They are coming," she whispered. Ethan followed her gaze. "What do you mean?" "My people. The council sent a hunter," she said. "They will erase everything that proves I was here." Ethan stood up. "Then we'll find a way to stop them," he said firmly. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling. "You cannot fight them, Ethan. They are not like your kind." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Maybe not," he said, "but they've never met me." Lyra felt something deep inside her shift again. It wasn't fear anymore, it was connection. The strange warmth that humans called hope. She knew the coming days would change everything. But for the first time, she didn't feel alone far beyond the clouds. The silver hunter ship moved closer, Silent and deadly inside, the commander's voice echoed. Target located, human contact confirmed. Prepare for elimination. The stars flickered coldly, unaware of the fragile bond forming below. And somewhere in that desert hangar, a human and an alien waited for the storm that was about to begin. The night fell heavy and silent. The desert wind carried dust and whispers through the broken airfield. Inside the hangar, Ethan worked on the radio system while Lyra stood by the open door, her glowing eyes fixed on the sky. She could feel it, a strange vibration, a rhythm in the air that only her kind could sense. The hunter was near, her heart, or what passed for one, beat faster than it ever had before. Ethan noticed her stillness. "Hey," he said quietly. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Lyra turned toward him, her face pale and calm. "They are close," she said. "My people have found me." Ethan put down his tools. "So what happens now?" Lyra's voice was low and sad. "If they find me, they will erase this place. And anyone who helped me." Ethan shook his head. "Not happening," he said. "We're not giving up that easy." He started pulling open old crates filled with spare parts and wires. Lyra watched him curiously. "What are you doing?" "Making sure they don't get to you without a fight," Ethan said. Lyra stepped forward, her voice soft. "You cannot fight them with human weapons," she said. "Their technology is far beyond yours." Ethan grinned. "Maybe, but you forget. We humans are good at one thing, improvising." For the first time, Lyra smiled despite the danger. Her fingers glowed faintly as she helped him rewire a generator. When she touched the metal, it began to hum with blue energy. Together, they created something between human machine and alien power. A shield, thin but alive, surrounding the hangar like a faint blue fog. "It will not last long," she warned. "It just needs to last long enough," Ethan said. Hours passed and the desert grew colder. Then the ground began to tremble. Ethan stepped outside, feeling the vibration rise through his boots. In the distance, a silver shape appeared, smooth, silent, and shining like a falling star. The hunter ship. It hovered low, its engines making no sound, only a deep hum that seemed to echo inside the bones. From its underside, beams of light swept across the sand. Searching, scanning, feeling, Lyra stepped beside him, her face hard and focused. "They know I'm here," she whispered. Ethan's heart pounded. "Then let's give them something to find," he said. He ran to the truck, starting the engine. The sound breaking the silence, Lyra climbed in beside him, holding a small glowing crystal in her hand. "What's that?" Ethan asked. "A pulse core," she said. "If I throw it, it will confuse their sensors for a short time." "Good," he said, "because we're about to play hide and seek with aliens." The truck raced through the desert, the headlights bouncing off the rocks. Above them, the hunter ship followed, its light scanning the ground like giant eyes. Lyra threw the crystal out the window. It exploded in a burst of light, spreading a wave of static through the air. For a moment, the ship lost track of them. Ethan took the chance to turn sharply behind a line of dunes. Hiding the truck under a ridge, they sat in silence. The only sound, their heavy breathing. Lyra looked at him. "You are not afraid," she said quietly. Ethan laughed softly. "Oh, I'm terrified," he said. "But that's the thing about fear, we move anyway." Lyra studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "Your courage," she said. "It has no logic, but it is beautiful." Ethan smiled. "Thanks. I'll take that as a compliment." The ship passed overhead again, its lights cutting across the sand. This time it stopped, hovering above the hangar. Ethan's eyes widened. "They found the base," he said. Lyra clenched her hands, her glow flickering brighter. "They will destroy it," she said. "They want no evidence left." Ethan looked at her. "Then we stop them here," he said firmly. Lyra hesitated. "If I reveal my power, they will know I've changed," she said. "They will see emotion in me. They will mark me as corrupted." Ethan's voice softened. "Maybe corruption is just another word for being human," he said. Lyra stared at him, her eyes full of conflict. Then she nodded slowly. "Then I will fight like a human," she said. They drove back toward the hangar, the wind rising behind them as they arrived. The hunter's light beam focused on them. Bright as lightning, Lyra stepped out of the truck, her hands glowing with fierce blue energy. She raised them toward the sky, creating a massive pulse wave that pushed the ship back. The ground shook, sand flying everywhere. Ethan ran to the generator, powering the shield to its limit. Electric arcs wrapped the hangar like a cocoon of light. The hunter ship recovered quickly, charging a weapon beneath its hull. Lyra turned to Ethan. "When this ends, you must run," she said. Ethan shook his head. "Not a chance," he said. "We finish this together." For the first time, Lyra didn't argue. Her eyes met his, filled with something new, trust. Then the sky erupted. A bright beam from the ship struck the desert, exploding sand and stone. The shockwave tore through the air. Ethan fell, covering his head. Lyra screamed, her body glowing brighter than ever, absorbing the energy with her own. The ship's sensors flickered, its systems confused by her power. She lifted her hands again, her voice echoing across the desert. "I am not your weapon," she shouted. "I am alive." And with one last pulse of energy, she sent a blast that shattered the sky. When the light faded, the hunter ship was gone. Only the stars remained, shining coldly above. Lyra collapsed to the ground, her glow fading. Ethan rushed to her side. Holding her carefully, she smiled weakly. "You see, human," she whispered. "I learned to fight like you." Then her eyes closed. Her body still and quiet, Ethan looked at her, tears mixing with dust on his face. He didn't know if she was alive, but he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over yet. The desert was silent after the storm. Smoke rose from the torn earth, and the night was filled with the faint crackle of energy fading away. Ethan knelt beside Lyra, his hands trembling as he touched her arm. Her skin, once glowing with blue light, was now dim and cold. "Lyra," he whispered, "come on, stay with me." No answer came, only the low hum of the generator dying in the background. He lifted her gently and carried her back inside the ruined hangar. The walls were cracked and the shield had burned itself out. He placed her on a blanket and searched through his scattered tools. There had to be something that could help. Her breathing was shallow, her energy fading fast. Then he remembered the crystal she had used earlier, the pulse core. He found its shattered pieces glowing faintly in the sand outside. Ethan gathered them carefully, his mind racing. If he could reconnect them somehow, maybe he could restart her energy. He hooked the crystal fragments to a power cell and held them close to Lyra's chest. The light flickered weakly, spreading through her body like fire through cold glass. Her fingers twitched, her eyes opened slowly. For a moment she looked confused. Then she focused on him. "You did it," she whispered. Her voice weak but warm. Ethan smiled with relief. "Yeah," he said softly. "Welcome back." Lyra tried to sit up, but pain crossed her face. "Don't move," Ethan said quickly. "You need to rest." She looked around the hangar. The destruction all around them. "Is it over?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "I don't think so," he said. "They'll come again." Lyra turned her face toward the open sky. "The hunter failed," she said. "So now they will send something worse," Ethan frowned. "Worse than a hunter?" She nodded slowly. "Their enforcer," she said quietly. "A being that does not fail." Ethan sat beside her, thinking, "You don't have to face this alone," he said. Lyra gave him a sad smile. "I already have," she said. "My whole life has been alone." Ethan shook his head. "Not anymore," he said firmly. "You're on Earth now, and we stand together." She studied him with silent eyes, her expression softening. "You humans," she whispered. "You speak of togetherness like it's a weapon." Ethan smiled. "Sometimes it is," he said. "The strongest one we've got." Outside, the first light of dawn touched the desert horizon. Lyra watched it as if seeing it for the first time. The colors shifted across the sand, gold, pink, red, alive and full of warmth. "It's beautiful," she said quietly. Ethan nodded. "Yeah," he said, "but we don't have much time to enjoy it." He stood and began gathering supplies. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Moving out." Ethan said, "They know this place now. We need to stay ahead of them." Lyra struggled to her feet, still weak but determined. "I will come with you," she said. Ethan looked at her. "Are you sure?" She nodded once. "I have chosen my path," she said. "I will not run anymore." They loaded the truck with whatever they could find, food, water, tools, and the few alien artifacts left behind. Lyra sat in the passenger seat, still pale, her eyes scanning the desert. She could sense distant signals, ships moving in the upper atmosphere, searching, waiting. Ethan started the engine and drove toward the distant mountains. As they left the airfield behind, Lyra looked back one last time. "That was my last link to the past," she said quietly. "Then let's make something new," Ethan replied. something worth fighting for. They drove for hours through empty roads and shifting dunes. As the sun rose higher, Lyra began to regain strength. Her glow returning slowly, she turned to Ethan and said softly, "You saved me twice now, human." He chuckled. "Guess that makes us even." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "In my world, debt is not balanced so easily," she said. Ethan grinned. "Good thing we're not in your world anymore." Suddenly, the truck's radio hissed to life. Static filled the air, followed by a strange voice, cold and mechanical. "Subject Lyra 47 detected, energy trace confirmed. Retrieval protocol initiated." Ethan slammed the brakes. His eyes wide, Lyra's face went pale. "They found us," she whispered. The sky above darkened as shadows moved across the sun. 3 silver ships appeared, flying low and fast. Ethan gripped the wheel tightly. "Hang on," he said. "We're not done yet." The ships opened fire, bright beams slicing through the sand. Ethan swerved, the truck bouncing wildly. Lyra reached out, her hands glowing. Forming a shimmering barrier behind them, energy bolts exploded against it. Scattering light across the desert, she was growing stronger, her power stabilizing. "Keep driving," she shouted. Ethan did, pushing the truck as fast as it could go. They weaved through the canyon paths, dust clouds rising behind them. The ships followed, relentless. Lyra closed her eyes, focusing. Her voice echoed softly, ancient and powerful. The ground beneath them began to shift. Rocks moved, sand lifted, and a pulse of blue light burst from her hands. The canyon walls trembled and collapsed behind them. Blocking the path, the ships collided with the falling debris, crashing into the cliffs with explosions that lit up the sky. Ethan looked back in disbelief. "You just took out 3 ships," he said. Mazed, Lyra opened her eyes slowly. "Yes," she whispered, "but the Enforcer will not fall so easily." Ethan drove toward the mountains. Determination burning in his eyes, he looked at Lyra, her glow reflecting in the windshield. "So we make our stand there," he said. Lyra turned to him. "Then it begins," she whispered. "The final chase between 2 worlds." And somewhere beyond the clouds, a dark shadow moved, something far larger, older, and deadlier than anything they had faced before. The Enforcer had arrived. The mountains rose like sleeping giants under the burning sun. Ethan's truck crawled up the rocky path, its tires grinding against stone and dust behind him. The horizon shimmered with heat and distant smoke. Lyra sat beside him, silent, her gaze fixed on the sky. She could feel it, the weight of a presence beyond the clouds, something ancient, cold, and patient, the Enforcer. "Is it watching us now?" Ethan asked quietly. Lyra nodded slowly. "It doesn't need to see with eyes," she said. "It feels life itself, it senses the rhythm of thought." "The pulse of will?" Ethan frowned. "So hiding won't work." "No," she said. "The only way to survive is to make it chase the wrong signal." They reached a narrow ridge and parked the truck. Ethan stepped out, scanning the canyon below. It was vast and empty, a maze of rocks and shadows. He had an idea, a dangerous one. "What if we use your tech to create a decoy?" he said. Lyra tilted her head. "You mean a false energy signature?" "Exactly," Ethan replied. "Something that looks like you, but isn't." Lyra thought for a moment, then nodded. "It could work, but it will require part of my essence," she said quietly. "That sounds bad," Ethan said. "It will weaken me," she admitted. "But it may give us time." They set up camp in the mouth of a cave. Lyra sat cross-legged on the ground, her hands glowing faintly. Ethan connected wires and coils around her, creating a makeshift transmitter. The air shimmered with blue light as she began to hum softly. Her voice wasn't human, it was layered. Like a chorus of echoes speaking in harmony, the rocks around them vibrated, dust floating upward as if gravity had forgotten its job. Ethan watched in awe. A sphere of light formed in front of her. Pulsing with energy, her body trembled, the glow flickering. "Lyra," he said. "That's enough." She shook her head. "Almost there," she whispered. Then with one final pulse, the sphere expanded and vanished into the air. The ground went still. Ethan rushed to her side as she collapsed forward. He caught her, holding her carefully. Her face was pale, her glow almost gone. "It's done," she whispered weakly. "The decoy is moving east. It will draw the Enforcer away." Ethan nodded. "Then we'll head west," he said. "Toward the mountains," she smiled faintly. "You think like a soldier," she said softly. "I'm just trying to keep us alive," he replied. As night fell, they built a small fire, the flames flickering against the dark walls of the cave. Lyra rested her head against the stone, watching the sparks rise. "You risk much for me," she said quietly. Ethan looked at her across the firelight. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe it's just the right thing to do." Lyra's eyes softened. "In my world, right and wrong are decided by survival," she said. "Yeah," Ethan said. "That's why I left the army. I got tired of fighting for survival instead of meaning." The silence between them was gentle. The night outside was not somewhere beyond the ridge. A low hum filled the air. Ethan froze. Lyra's eyes snapped open, glowing faintly. "It found us," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan stood, grabbing his rifle, though he knew it was useless. A beam of white light cut through the darkness outside, scanning the rocks like a blade. Then a shadow fell across the entrance of the cave. The enforcer was massive, tall, metallic, its body wrapped in shifting armor that moved like liquid. Its face was smooth, expressionless, with a single glowing line where eyes should have been. It stepped forward, the ground shaking with every motion. Ethan aimed his weapon. Lyra raised her hand weakly. "No," she whispered. "That won't stop it." The enforcer's voice filled the air, deep and mechanical. "Subject Lyra 47, surrender your core. Your mutation will be erased." Ethan stepped in front of her. "She's not going anywhere," he said. The enforcer tilted its head slightly. "Human interference detected," it said. "Termination required." A pulse of energy exploded from its chest, hitting the cave wall and throwing Ethan backward. He hit the ground hard, the world spinning around him. Lyra screamed, her eyes blazing blue again. She lifted her hands and a wave of energy shot out, clashing against the enforcer's beam. The cave lit up like lightning. Rocks shattering around them, Ethan crawled to his feet, watching as the two forces collided. Lyra's light flickered violently, her body trembling with strain. The enforcer pushed forward, its armor glowing red. "You cannot resist," it said coldly. Lyra's voice rose, full of defiance. "I am not yours anymore," she shouted. Her power surged, blinding light filling the cave. Ethan shielded his face as the explosion tore through the mountain. When the dust settled, the enforcer was gone. A deep crater smoked where it had stood. Ethan ran to Lyra, finding her on the ground. Breathing weakly, "You did it," he said. She shook her head slowly. "No," she whispered. "That was only a fragment. The real enforcer is coming." Ethan froze. "You mean that wasn't it?" Lyra looked at him with tired eyes. "They sent a scout to find me. The true one arrives tomorrow." Ethan sat beside her, his hands shaking. "Then we have one night," he said. "One last night to prepare." Lyra closed her eyes. Exhausted. "Yes," she whispered. "And after that, only fate decides who survives, outside." The stars shimmered cold and distant, and far above them, something vast moved in the dark, a shadow that blocked the light, spreading across the night sky like wings. The real enforcer was on its way. The night before the final dawn was quiet, too quiet. The wind whispered through the mountain pass, carrying the scent of smoke and cold stone. Ethan sat near a dying fire, checking his rifle. Though he knew bullets meant nothing now, across from him, Lyra sat in silence, her eyes dimly glowing as she stared into the flames. Her strength had returned only slightly, but something in her presence had changed. There was calm in her voice, like someone who had already accepted what was coming. "Tomorrow," she said softly. "It ends." Ethan nodded, his voice low. "Yeah, one way or another." Lyra turned her face toward him, her expression unreadable. "In my world, endings are not feared," she said. "They are respected, because they make room for what must come next." Ethan looked at her with a half smile. "Then let's make this one worth remembering." The first light of morning crept over the peaks, painting the sky with shades of red and gold. Lyra stood slowly, the wind tugging at her hair. Her glow returned, brighter now, steady and strong. She could feel the enforcer drawing near. The air itself seemed to hum with its approach. Ethan looked out over the ridge and saw it, a massive black shape emerging from the clouds, descending like a god of war. Its armor glowed with dark energy, its steps shaking the ground for miles. It wasn't a machine, not entirely. It was something alive, something ancient, the true enforcer. Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon. Though fear gripped his heart, Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is not your fight," she said softly. He shook his head. "Too late to back out now," he said. You brought me into this, I'm seeing it through. Lyra's eyes softened. You humans, she whispered. You never know when to run. Yeah, Ethan said, smiling faintly. It's kind of our thing. The enforcer stopped at the edge of the mountain pass, its voice echoing through the air like thunder. Lyra 47, it boomed. Your resistance has been noted. Your anomaly will be erased, Lyra stepped forward. Her feet steady on the rocky ground. No, she said clearly. Her voice ringing across the canyon. I am no longer your creation. I am my own. The enforcer's glowing line of sight pulsed red. Individuality is corruption, it said, and corruption must be cleansed. Ethan ran to the generator they had set up the night before. It was their last defense, an old alien core modified with human wires and batteries. If it worked, it could amplify Lyra's power beyond her limits. If it failed, it would destroy them both. Lyra, he shouted, when I say go, connect to the core. She nodded, her eyes locked on the enforcer as it raised a glowing arm. The ground shook, rock splitting under the weight of its energy. Ethan slammed the last switch, sparks flying. Now, he yelled. Lyra raised her hands, blue lightning bursting from her palms. Connecting her to the generator, the air exploded with light, a shock wave rippling through the mountain. The enforcer staggered back, its armor flickering. Lyra's body glowed brighter, her voice echoing like thunder. You call me corruption, she shouted, but I am evolution. She released the power, a massive wave of energy surging toward the enforcer. It collided with its shield, the impact shaking the sky. Ethan covered his face from the blinding light when he looked up. The enforcer was pushing forward through the blast. Unstoppable, Lyra screamed as the strain tore through her body, her glow flickering violently. Lyra, Ethan shouted, running toward her. The enforcer raised its hand, energy charging for the final strike. Ethan threw himself between them, firing his rifle, though it did nothing. The beam hit him square in the chest, and for a heartbeat everything went still. Lyra's scream echoed through the mountains, pure pain and fury. Her glow surged. Brighter than the sun, her body lifted into the air, surrounded by spiraling energy. You heard him, she said, her voice shaking the air. You took what I chose to protect. The enforcer stepped back, its sensors flashing in confusion. Lyra's energy grew unstable, the mountain trembling under her power. Then she exploded forward, becoming a storm of light and sound. The blast engulfed the enforcer, tearing its armor apart, scattering its pieces into the wind. When the light faded, silence returned. The mountain was scarred, the air still shimmering with heat. Ethan lay motionless on the ground, his chest burned, his breath shallow. Lyra crawled to his side, her glow dim and fading. She placed her hand on his cheek, her eyes full of sorrow. Human, she whispered. You gave me something no one in my world ever could, choice. Ethan's lips moved weakly. You finished it, he whispered. Lyra smiled faintly, tears like light slipping from her eyes. No, she said softly. We finished it. Her body began to dissolve into shimmering particles floating upward like starlight. Ethan tried to reach for her, but his strength was gone. Don't go, he whispered. Lyra smiled one last time. I'm not gone, she said. I'm everywhere now. And with that, she vanished into the air, her light joining the dawn. The sun rose slowly over the mountains. Ethan opened his eyes weakly, looking at the sky where her light had disappeared. He smiled through the pain. Be gentle, alien, he whispered. You did good. And as the morning wind carried her glow across the desert, it felt like the world itself had changed, somewhere far beyond Earth. The stars flickered brighter, as if they, too, had learned something new about being alive.